I never thought my own father would look me in the eye and tell me my wife was not good enough to be around his family. I never imagined the woman who raised me would scheme behind my back to take money that my wife and I had sacrificed 3 years of our lives to save. Audrey, my wife, is the kindest soul I have ever known. She works double shifts at the hospital, comes home exhausted, and still manages to smile at me like I am the best thing that ever happened to her. We had dreams together, simple dreams. A trip to Greece, just the two of us to celebrate everything we had built. But my family saw those dreams as an opportunity, and what they did with our money changed everything. Before I share what happened, I want to know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below. If this story resonates with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. If you have ever been betrayed by someone you trusted with your whole heart, stay with me until the end. This one is going to hit close to home. Let me tell you about Audrey. She is a registered nurse at a community hospital about 20 miles outside of Boston. The first time I saw her, she was sitting alone at a small coffee shop near the hospital, still wearing her scrubs, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked exhausted, but there was something about her that made me walk over and introduce myself. I am a software engineer, and I had been working remotely from that same coffee shop for weeks. That day, I finally found the courage to say hello. We talked for 2 hours. She told me about growing up in a small town in Maine, about how she put herself through nursing school by working 2 jobs, about how she wanted to travel the world someday but never had the chance. I told her about my family, about my job, about how I had never met anyone who made me feel so comfortable so quickly. 3 months later, we were officially dating. 2 years after that, I asked her to marry me in the same coffee shop where we first met. Our wedding was small. Neither of us wanted anything extravagant. We had about 30 guests, mostly friends from work, and a few relatives. My parents came along with my younger sister Meredith. I remember watching Audrey walk down the aisle, and I remember feeling like the luckiest man alive. But I also remember the look on my mother's face. It was not joy. It was something else, something I chose to ignore at the time. My father, Harold, is 62 years old. He spent his career as a regional manager for an insurance company before retiring a few years ago. He has always been obsessed with appearances. What kind of car we drive, what neighborhood we live in, what people think of our family. My mother, Linda, is 58. She never worked outside the home. Her entire identity has always been wrapped up in maintaining social status and making sure her children reflected well on her. And then there is Meredith. She is 28 now, 3 years younger than me. She has never held a full-time job for more than 6 months. She works part-time at a boutique clothing store and spends most of her money on things she cannot afford. My parents have always bailed her out. Every credit card bill, every rent payment she could not make. Every poor decision she made was cushioned by their checkbook. From the beginning, my family never fully accepted Audrey. She did not come from money. Her parents were working-class people who did the best they could. My mother would make subtle comments about Audrey's clothes, her lack of expensive jewelry, her simple tastes. Meredith was worse. She would ask Audrey where she bought her handbag and then smirk when Audrey said it was from a department store sale. Audrey never complained to me about any of it. She just kept trying. She brought homemade dishes to family dinners. She remembered everyone's birthdays. She sent thank you cards after every holiday. She wanted so badly to be accepted. After we got married, Audrey and I made a decision. We would start saving for a real vacation. Not a weekend getaway, not a visit to see relatives. A real trip, just the two of us, to somewhere we had always dreamed about. For Audrey, that place was Greece. She had a picture of Santorini on her phone's lock screen. She had been researching restaurants and tours and hidden beaches for years, so we started putting money away. Audrey picked up extra shifts at the hospital. I took on freelance projects in the evenings and on weekends. We cut back on eating out. We skipped buying new clothes. Every month, we watched our savings account grow. After 3 years, we had saved $22,000. It was more money than either of us had ever had in one place. Audrey had already started making plans. She found a small hotel overlooking the caldera in Santorini. She booked a cooking class in Athens. She mapped out the ferry routes between the islands. Every time she talked about it, her eyes lit up in a way that made all those extra hours of work worth it. We were 6 weeks away from leaving when my father called. The phone rang on a Tuesday evening. Audrey was at work, pulling another night shift. I saw my father's name on the screen and picked up without hesitation. He was unusually friendly that night. He asked about my job, about the house, about how Audrey was doing. It felt strange because my father rarely called just to chat. Then he got to the real reason for the call. He told me that he and my mother were planning something special. Their 40th wedding anniversary was coming up and they wanted to celebrate with a family cruise. Not just any cruise. A luxury cruise through the Caribbean. 7 days on a high-end ship with gourmet dining and private excursions. He said it would be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. He said he wanted the whole family to be there. And then he asked if I could contribute to help cover the costs. I asked him how much. He said the total cost was significant, but if I could chip in around $15,000, it would really help make it happen. I told him I needed to think about it. I told him Audrey and I had been planning our own trip. He said he understood, but that this was a special occasion. Family comes first, he said. He told me to talk it over with Audrey and get back to him. 2 days later, my mother called. Her approach was different. She talked about how important this anniversary was. She talked about how they were not getting any younger. She said it would mean so much to have the whole family together on this trip. And then she said something that stuck with me. She said Audrey should come too. She said it would be a great opportunity for Audrey to bond with the family. I felt hopeful when she said that. Maybe they were finally warming up to my wife. Meredith texted me the same week. She said she had already contributed her share. She asked how much I was planning to give. She made it sound like it was expected, like there was no question about whether I would participate. That night, I talked to Audrey. I told her about the cruise and the anniversary and how my family wanted us to contribute. I watched her face as I explained the situation. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that broke my heart a little. She said maybe we should postpone our Greece trip. She said family was important. She said she did not want to be the reason I missed such a big milestone with my parents. She said we could go to Greece next year. I looked at this woman who had worked so hard, who had dreamed so long, who was willing to give up something she had been looking forward to for 3 years just so my family would accept her. And I agreed. I told my father I would send $15,000. I transferred the money the next day. 2 weeks before the cruise departure, I called my father to ask about the tickets and the itinerary. I wanted to make sure Audrey and I had everything we needed. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then my father cleared his throat and said something that made my stomach drop. He said there was a small issue with the booking. He said the cruise package they selected only had room for 4 people. Himself, my mother Meredith, and me. He said there was no room for Audrey. I asked him what he meant. I asked why he did not mention this before I sent the money. He stumbled over his words. Then my mother got on the phone. She said they did not think it would be a big deal. She said Audrey probably would not enjoy it anyway. She said the other passengers were wealthy, sophisticated people. She said, and I will never forget these words, that Audrey just would not fit in. I could not speak. I stood there in my living room, gripping my phone so hard my knuckles turned white. My mother kept talking, making excuses, saying they thought Audrey would understand. She said they assumed I would want to spend quality time with my real family. When I hung up, I sat on the couch for a long time. I did not know how to tell Audrey, but I knew I had to. She came home from work around midnight. I was still sitting in the dark. She knew something was wrong the moment she saw my face. I told her everything. I told her about the 4-person limit. I told her what my mother said about her not fitting in. I watched her face as the words sank in. She did not yell. She did not cry. She just sat down next to me and stared at the wall. After a few minutes, she spoke. She said she had always known they did not accept her. She said she had spent 3 years trying to prove herself to people who never wanted to give her a chance. She said this was the first time it really hurt. I held her that night until she fell asleep, but I did not sleep at all. The next morning, I called my father. I told him that if Audrey was not welcome, then I was not going either. He exploded. He said I was being ungrateful. He said I was ruining their anniversary. He said Audrey had poisoned me against my own family. My mother called minutes later crying. She said I had changed. She said I used to be such a good son. Meredith sent a long text message calling Audrey manipulative and selfish. She said Audrey was trying to isolate me from everyone who loved me. I did not respond to any of them. I made my decision and I was not going to change it. A few days later, my parents, along with Meredith, left for the cruise. They did not say goodbye. They did not send a single message. A week into their trip, I received an email notification from my bank. It was a fraud alert about a transaction on a linked account. I logged in to check the details and noticed something strange: the $15,000 I had sent to my father. I started digging into where that money had actually gone. I called the cruise line directly. I explained that I had contributed to a family booking and wanted to verify the costs. After being transferred a few times, a customer service representative confirmed the details of my parents' reservation. The total cost for the 4-person luxury package was $8,000, not $15,000, not even close. My heart was pounding. I asked if they could tell me anything else about the payment. They could not release specific financial details, but they confirmed that the booking had been paid in full at the $8,000 rate. That meant $7,000 of my money had gone somewhere else. I called my friend Marcus. He works in financial services and knows how to trace transactions. I gave him the account number I had used to send the money. A few hours later, he called me back. He said the $7,000 had been transferred to a personal account. The account was registered to Meredith. I felt like the ground had opened up beneath me. My own sister. My own parents. They had planned this from the beginning. The cruise was never meant to include Audrey, and it was never supposed to cost what they told me. They used my contribution to pay for their vacation and then funneled the rest to Meredith. I called my father while they were still on the ship. When he answered, I could hear music and laughter in the background. He sounded annoyed that I was interrupting his vacation. I told him I knew everything. I told him I knew the cruise only cost $8,000. I told him I knew where the other $7,000 went. There was silence on the line. Then he started making excuses. He said Meredith had been struggling. He said she had credit card debt she could not pay. He said they saw an opportunity to help her and took it. He said since Audrey was not going anyway, they figured the extra money would not be missed. My mother grabbed the phone. She said I was overreacting. She said helping family was what good people do. She said Meredith was my sister and I should be happy to support her. What I said next came from somewhere deep inside me. I told them that Audrey and I had worked for 3 years to save that money. I told them Audrey had given up her dream trip so I could be with my family. I told them they had betrayed both of us, and I told them I wanted every penny of that $7,000 back. That was when Audrey spoke. She had been standing beside me the whole time, listening on speakerphone. She had heard every word they said. She had heard them dismiss her, belittle her, justify stealing from us. And for the first time since I had known her, she did not stay quiet. She told my parents that she had spent 3 years trying to earn their respect. She told them she had worked extra shifts until her feet ached and her back hurt just so we could save enough money for our future. She told them she had swallowed their insults and their snide remarks because she believed that family was worth fighting for, but not anymore. She told them they could keep their cruise and their fancy dinners and their so-called sophistication, but they could not keep her dignity, and they certainly could not keep our money. She said we would get it back one way or another. After the call ended, Audrey and I sat together in silence for a long time. Then she looked at me and said we needed to handle this properly. Not with anger, not with revenge, with facts and with the law. The next day, we consulted with an attorney. We explained the situation. We showed the records of the money transfer, the confirmation from the cruise line about the actual cost, and the evidence that $7,000 had been redirected to Meredith's account. The lawyer said we had a strong case. Transferring funds under false pretenses could be considered fraud. She drafted a formal demand letter requiring the return of $7,000 within 30 days. My parents received the letter 2 days after they returned from their cruise. My father called immediately. His voice was different now. The arrogance was gone. He said we did not need to involve lawyers. He said this was a family matter. He said we should sit down and talk like adults. I told him we were done talking. I told him he had 30 days. Meredith called next. She was crying. She said she never meant for things to go this far. She said she was sorry. She said she would pay us back if we just gave her time. I told her she had the same 30 days as everyone else. 2 weeks later, we received a wire transfer, $7,000 sent from Meredith's account. She included a note saying she had to take out a personal loan to cover it. She said she hoped we could move past this someday. My parents sent a text message. Not a phone call, not a handwritten letter, a text. It said they were sorry things had gotten so out of hand. It said they never intended to hurt us. It said Meredith had made some poor choices and they were just trying to help her. It said they hoped we could forgive them eventually. Audrey read the message over my shoulder. She did not say anything. She just shook her head and walked away. With the $7,000 returned and our remaining savings intact, we had enough to rebook our trip. Audrey found a beautiful hotel in Santorini with a view of the sunset over the caldera. She scheduled the cooking class in Athens that she had been dreaming about. She mapped out our ferry routes and our restaurant reservations and every little detail that made her happy. 3 months later, we boarded a plane to Greece. Standing on the balcony of our hotel in Santorini, watching the sun sink into the Aegean Sea, I looked at Audrey and saw something I had not seen in a long time. Peace. Real, genuine peace. The journey to get there had been painful. In the weeks after everything happened, Audrey struggled. She had nightmares. She would wake up in the middle of the night and just sit in the dark thinking. She told me she kept replaying all those years of trying to win my family over. All those dinners where she felt invisible. All those comments she pretended not to hear. She wondered if she had done something wrong. She wondered if she was somehow not enough. But slowly something shifted. She stopped blaming herself for other people's cruelty. She stopped measuring her worth by whether my family approved of her. She started focusing on the people who actually loved and supported her. Her friends from the hospital, her cousins back in Maine. Me. I had my own healing to do. I had to accept that the family I grew up with was not the family I thought I knew. My father, who I had respected my entire life, had looked at my wife and decided she was beneath him. My mother, who I had trusted completely, had schemed and lied without a second thought. My sister, who I had protected and defended for years, had taken money that was not hers and felt entitled to it. Coming to terms with that reality was one of the hardest things I have ever done. But Audrey and I came out of it stronger. We learned that family is not just about blood. It is about loyalty. It is about respect. It is about showing up for each other when it matters most. The people who truly love you do not make you feel small. They lift you up. We also learned that sometimes you have to draw boundaries, not out of anger, but out of self-preservation. My parents still reach out occasionally. Meredith sends birthday cards. I respond politely, but I keep my distance. I am not ready to let them back into our lives completely. Maybe I never will be, and I have made peace with that. The trip to Greece was everything Audrey had dreamed of and more. We walked through ancient ruins in Athens. We ate fresh seafood by the water in Mykonos. We watched the sunset in Santorini every single evening, and every time I looked at her face, I knew we had made the right choice. We had chosen each other. We had chosen our dreams. We had refused to let anyone take that away from us. If you are watching this and you have ever been made to feel like you are not good enough by the people who are supposed to love you, I want you to know something. Their opinion does not define your worth. You are not responsible for earning the approval of people who are determined to withhold it. You deserve to be surrounded by people who see your value without you having to prove it every single day. And if you are ever in a situation where you have to choose between protecting yourself and pleasing someone else, choose yourself. It is not selfish. It is survival. I want to ask you something. If you were in my position, would you have forgiven your family? Would you have given them another chance? Or would you have walked away for good? I genuinely want to know. Drop your answer in the comments below. If this story touched you in any way, please take a moment to hit that like button. It helps more than you know. And if you are not already subscribed, consider joining this community. We share real stories about real life, and your support means everything. Thank you for being here with me today. Thank you for listening to our story. I hope that wherever you are in your journey, you find the courage to protect your peace and to surround yourself with people who truly deserve your love. Take care of yourself. I will see you in the next one.